Good afternoon or evening, and welcome to Resources Resolutions. It's our eighth session. We've missed a couple, as you may have not noticed, because of different things. And in fact, our schedule will be changed for the rest of the year, which we'll talk about at the end. And again, all this is based on availability of the meeting space from which we broadcast and invite people to come and share in our sessions. So there has been change. So for those who realize that this is the first time we're back to back. Last week we had a session, same time, same place, and we're having it again this week because our original schedule was changed. We usually meet on every other Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Now we're still in daylight time, I believe. But this month we are back to back because they, like I say, had some changes because of staff personnel or meeting requirements, and we had to work around it in order to get our two sessions. Like I said, there will be a change in November to December, which will not allow us to have two sessions next month, or for whatever it's worth. Okay, so we do welcome you to here. For those who are not familiar, we are a hybrid organization, meaning we have in-person sessions. We just talked about this schedule on that, in which we invite any of our members of the network or anyone who wants to attend. It's open to the public to be here in person. We can accommodate like 20 in this room, and we haven't anywhere gotten near that amount so far. So welcome to come if you happen to have the time, even though I know it's a time where most people are if they're en route home. But for those who can attend or don't wish to attend in person, as we mentioned, we also appear online. First of all, on our major core channel, which is YouTube, and our channel itself in YouTube is R space REVUE. If you could read that off the little ant logo, our brand up in the right corner, that's the name of our production company. That also is the name that we use for most of our shows, not this one, where we expand the first letter R to whatever the subject matter is. But if you go to R, and we have to put a space here, R space REVUE, on YouTube channel, you'll find all of our shows. And then if you search resources, plural, resolutions, plural, you'll get all of our shows to date in order. But regardless, if you're familiar with YouTube, the most current or the latest video that has been shown is always at the top of the list. So you don't really have to search for it. If you get to the channel, you'll see if it says resources resolution or you see the RS2 logo, you'll know that, and you see the date. You can see that's the most current one if you've missed this episode. Okay. In addition to YouTube, as we always say, we're on Facebook on 3 pages. We're on profiles, not pages. Well, one is anyway, Bob Bockelman, Boeckelman. That's a lot to remember. The New Deal, which is our former dinner club that we also continue to use and broadcast, and NOTVIN, New Orleans TV Internet Work System. No S on the end. So you can see it's on Facebook, but again, that's a very limited appearance. It doesn't stay more than, I believe, 24 hours. That's why we encourage YouTube. We're also on LinkedIn, at R Review, like it's down there, and on Twitter, and on, Twitter's no longer, on the X, and that's the New Deal, but it's in reverse order. It's Deal the New. Well, we won't go into that. But any of those will carry the show live as you're seeing it. And all of these we do, after the broadcast, we do show on there to make sure it's on there, and it does stay on, like I say, for about a day. But YouTube will be on there permanently. So if you want to see any of the back episodes or today's episode, or you want someone else, refer them, please, as everyone always begs, at any time, like our YouTube channel and subscribe. And by subscribing with no fee, you'll be notified, hit the bell or whatever it's called, and they'll tell you when it's coming on. So you'll have a mental calendar reminder for you in case you want to follow us. All right. And as we stated, our organization is trying to be a nonprofit as well and collaborating in a network format with for-profits. we've been having, I have to admit, we've been having difficulty getting the two together and really getting a lot of interest. One, because first of all, today people don't like to meet unless it's strictly a social event. And, we're trying to do some of those, certainly in the future. Once we get a few people that are core people that we'll know will attend the social events, then of course we will expand it. We've tried some meet and greet at a coffee shop near me, the Uptown, where I go every day, and haven't had a lot of people successful come up and join, even though we offer them free coffee, which we thought would be an incentive. But this is what we're trying to do, is expand our group so we can move forward in doing both, even if we have to form each one separately. The nonprofits are obviously usually much more responsive than the for-profits because they already have their own networks, or whether it's official or just among their relatives and their customer base. So, but still, they are out there still. There are tons of them before the pandemic. There used to be like 12 in the city when I was first in those things back at the turn of the century. Now there's maybe 2 or 3 international ones that are on the local level. Uh, but so we're trying to get that started as well, trying to get that part of it going. But we're also appealing to the nonprofits because there's so many more nonprofits, and they all seem to need some form of help. Not all, but the fledgling, the startup, the mom and pop shops, all of those have various needs. The existing ones, they just need additional monies from the grants that they get from other sources, the established international nonprofits. Okay, so I don't want to go over too much. There's another source of recruitment. There are 2 more sources, 2 tools and 1 software. The software is called meetup.com, meetup.com. This software is free to anyone, but there's also a premium service, which we adhere to, subscribe to, which allows you to gather or disseminate information about meetings in person or hybrid like ours, both ways, for people with similar interests. It started years ago before there was any social media. I mean, not any social media, but all the different opportunities, the platforms for people to do their own thing. But it was mainly geared for getting people in their neighborhoods or their cities together, whether it was knitting, whether it was for drinking, eating, anything else. And that's what we used to use for our programs that we had on television, as well as the dining club for inviting people to the restaurants that would appear on our major show. So meetup.com, we rejoined, and we are getting bits and pieces that we have since the end of really last week of July. We've added our latest is 17 members. We had one join us and her name is Deidre Smith from New Orleans, and she joined us on the 23rd of October. So we welcome her and all of our other 16 members, and hopefully we can start expanding more. A lot aren't joining because they want to have some kind of commitment with regard to in-person, and the in-person has got to have that lead, and that would be some type of social event. They really don't want to meet for the session, which is important from not only an educational standpoint, because we always try to present topics of interest that may or may not help, hopefully your organization or yourself, but also start meeting the folks who are members, are willing to do this, and developing our network and making those important connections. Okay, so meetup.com, we tell you we added one member, Deidre. Very good. Now, there's other tools. We talked about the new business report, which is we generate and buy from both parishes instead of counties, parishes, Orleans and Jefferson, which indicates any new business, profit or nonprofit, that has acquired a license to operate in that parish. And we're identifying those. We have huge spreadsheets, which, it's difficult. I'm visually impaired, so it's almost impossible for me to go through all these, even with magnifying glasses, and identify these as potential resources to consider for our organization. But if we can get anyone to volunteer, we will pay them, a token amount for their work. We can't hire anyone. We just don't have those kind of funds. We don't charge anyone to join our networks like several of the other personal, independent situations do. So we have to work within our means, but you can see our ads for media people as well as for administrative people on Craigslist under Resources Resolution. Just contact me through my email, bob@allreview.net, or one of those resources, or any of our social media profile pages, etc. And we'll be glad to discuss with you those opportunities. The quicker we get someone doing that stuff, the quicker we'll develop potential for our organization's growth. Last week, we talked about another tool, and that was not a tool for recruitment, even though it is incentive. For the again, we're focusing, as I meant, most on nonprofits here, even though if you wish to ask a question, and by the way, since you're on if you're on social media, you can make a comment or a question on any media you have that you're watching our show. And our good friend, our producer, will catch that information, parlay it to me, and we'll try our best to not only acknowledge you, but answer your question or see what direction you need. So there's a way of doing that as well when you're online, or even at post line, you can make some comments if we watch the show after it airs online. Okay. So what we gave last week was an analysis or an identification of one major New Orleans organization called the Greater New Orleans Foundation, which has traditionally been around many years. I know since before the turn of the century. And actually, they do granting from different foundation sources to nonprofits that follow their guidelines during the year. And again, some of these they're not $1 million grants. There's no doubt these are in the thousands. But still, depending on what your mission is and if you meet their requirements, they review all the ones they get during the year, and there's a period that they actually select and award you whatever award that they either can afford or that equals to what you've requested. So we identified about, I think it was like 15 of these that were specific grants that really were funded by outside sources. These are not some of their traditional donate that they have used, like say, individuals and companies supply them with monies, donate monies to them to put in their pool for granting. But then some of these organizations and individuals will actually give specific grant monies for specific locations, whether it's for a neighborhood, a church, a particular company's project, etc., or even planting a tree, which was the number one. So we went over all those last week. And again, unfortunately, we had done the research and all in July. Most of those ended in September of this year. Now, there's some that are going through next year. And if you go back and look at last episode 7, if you'll bear with those, you'll find out which ones are qualified for 2024. Now, we will also update and review those specific grants probably at the beginning of the year, so we'll get as much information for 2024, maybe every quarter, update that with any ones that come on later. So that way, if you're just strictly a follower on here and you want to apply for something that's in there, you don't need to go for just those specifics. You can go on GreaterNewOrleansFoundation.com and find out their application and fill it out and tell them what your organization's about. You have to be, I believe, be a 501c3. You have to either be approved or at least in the process of approval, okay, which is about a year-long situation. But you can apply for anything every year, whether there's a specified amount. But if you happen to be in one of the categories that are specified, you certainly want to apply for those, whether or not you play for a general one as well, to see if you would qualify and get grants under that situation. Okay. Now, there were two more organizations. One is a tool, which we're going to talk about today. That's called guidestore.org. But one of our other membership, more in person, more local, we mentioned, is that we are attempting to affiliate with a new credit union, federal credit union in the uptown area where I reside, and that's where most of my activities come from. And this organization was really originally started in San Antonio, Texas, but is now a federal national credit union. Okay. And they are very interested in participating in the communities that they approach. So it's not, and in many ways. Okay. So we jumped on them with regard to joining ourselves, myself at least, because we certainly want to participate with them and them to participate with us to help both organizations grow by us getting more depositors and more activity to them, as well as them being part of our organization and maybe sponsoring events or anything like that that we can talk about. So they have a promotional thing that if you join their credit union, by the way, the name is kind of a play on words, called Credit Human. So instead of saying credit union, it, like they used to say, like whatever name, Mary Tyler Moore, whatever name was, not Mary, whoever, I don't remember those names, I'm too old. It sounds like credit union, but it's credit human, Human, to show their compassion and their involvement in the community as opposed to just strictly financial reasons. Now they have typical financial services, debit, checking accounts, savings accounts, mortgage loans, etc. But what they're doing is they're offering a very special perk that if you join and deposit and make a deposit in the savings account, a savings account in your name, and also a checking account in your name, here's what will happen. You'll get a debit credit card with a checking account, and of course you'll get online services for both accounts, which will allow you to put money in as well as do your regular balance. If you don't have another bank online, you can do online banking with them. The key here is their reward is $200. Ooh, wow. And most banks have these kind of promotional deals, but what happens is they usually want you to do very large deposits or very large purchases within a specified time. This one, the deposit amount, all you have to deposit is $5 in savings and $25 in checking, or vice versa. I've forgotten. I put more than that. You will get your card upon approval immediately, almost immediately while you're there. And you can do all this online by credithuman.org. And by doing this, if you make 10 purchases within that period using that card, they will reward you with a $200 deposit in your checking account. Now, the key, as I've explained before, is you don't want to go spend hundreds of dollars each time, so that way you're losing the game. I mean, unless this is your only way of paying bills. But if you just buy a newspaper, a pack of gum, or a coffee and something to eat there, whatever, every time you do one of those, if you use your card, you'll get counted. When you get 10 within that period, well, the end of that period, you will get that deposit. So we're hoping to use that promo to recruit members to our organization as well as to themselves. And we'll give you more about that as it moves along. But it's just another way to develop membership tool activity in both organizations. Now, let's go back to what I said. The other tool, as opposed to a physical institution or something, or software, is a company by the name of guidestar.org, GUIDESTAR.org. Now you can apply for this, and I think there's a free section. I'm almost sure there is, but there are also multiple levels, and all services do. That's how they make money. But first of all, it's a directory of nonprofits, and this thing is international. So you can put in a zip code or a city or country, and you can find out all the nonprofits in that thing. Or you can apply to be, so that you'll be listed in that directory. And depending on how much information you give them and stuff like that, there's different categories of what they feel is transparency. And really, it's like, if you're in insurance, it's like a rating, a best rating. The higher color you have, gold, is bronze, gold, silver, and platinum. The highest one you get means you certified, it's your A on your class. So what we're doing is trying to identify the nonprofits in New Orleans. Again, it's not like you can just go in and put the zip code and it'll give you all those. you have to search one by one through the list. And I've gotten 3 different readings on how many nonprofits we have, from as low as 1,300 to one as 44,000. So what I'm doing is, and again, this is something that would be greatly helped by having a volunteer, paid or unpaid, to do this work from us because of our visual eyes. What I have to do is go onto their website, put in our zip code or our city, New Orleans, and then scroll down each one to and of course it's not in alphabetical order. So that's the big dilemma, because sometimes you're going to overlap. You'll come back on the next time and it'll be a different point. It doesn't stop exactly where you leave off. It starts over again, and you have a lot of backtracking or double dipping to go back to get to the new ones that you want to list. But I'm doing a Excel or a spreadsheet of the ones, and I've got like 65. I've got more than, I've got about 100 something. But it lists both what I call the independent, startup shop. These are nonprofits that show to this organization and to the world that have zero revenue, meaning they're probably new, and they have zero gross revenue and zero assets. They don't own the building. They don't have cars in their name or anything like that. The established ones are already in there, and they list their gross revenue and their gross assets. So what I've done is I've made the first listing, which I'm going to share with you all today. And again, if you're not in New Orleans, probably most of these won't make any sense to you, because I'm looking strictly for New Orleans. And as I said, what we're going to do is take all of those that are listed with zero revenue and zero assets and combine that from this list to use as a contact or a reference source to approach them to see how we can help them, by them helping us by joining for free. In other words, whether we can help create their board, because they have to have a board of directors instead of just using their mom and pop and their sister and brother. How they can fundraise, how can they have events. All this we want to do to help certainly the fledgling or the organization, even if they're not fledgling, but still need help and improvement in these areas, so that the resources that we can develop for them will wind up in resolutions for their problem or their needs. That's hence the name. Okay, well, I'm going to start off, first of all, I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to read, to give you examples, some of the for-profits that are well established with quite a bit of revenue. And so far, the one that I see, and again, this is not all of them, so this could be wrong, but off the bat, the first one that comes up has a large gross revenue and a large assets, and that is the National World War II Museum. And for those who are not familiar in New Orleans, we were lucky enough to get the approval to build this museum celebrating the National World War II, with a lot of fanfare, a wonderful author who wrote the books and everything. He was there. Tom Hanks was here. A lot of celebrities when they opened it, and they continue to expand. It started off as one building. Now it's a complex of buildings, huge, and it has more than just artifacts from the war. I mean, there's things like planes and their boats, to little medals and stuff like that. But not only that, they've accommodated, there's a restaurant in there. There's a theater where they do themed musical shows or some productions or other things. So they're way a phenomenal entity. And if you come here and visit to that, and of course there is admission for it, so it's not a freebie, you can spend more than a day. Okay, you can, first of all, it's an all-day event to see probably half of it. And it's even more if you go through and want to see all these other activities. So it's a huge draw for the city of New Orleans, and it's gotten funding from all sources, nationally and internationally. So as of this year, and I don't know what period, the gross revenue, you ready for this, folks? $94 million. Now, none of these will be billion. We're not a big city like that. $94 million. Their assets, meaning their buildings, which is $386,000. They're probably more than that because they've added new buildings this year. So that's a huge one. Okay, another established nonprofit that's very unique to us. It's called the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. This goes on every year, May and June, or June, July. I always get the dates wrong. Runs for weekend to weekend almost. So Thursdays through Sunday, twice a week. And it's basically a music venue done on the outdoors, runs and brings celebrities or musicians and vocalists, internationally known as well as locally. They do all genres of music, whether from gospel music to country and western to pop rock. So because of its huge reach and availability to bring such phenomenal musicians, vocalists, etc., to the city during these periods for these concerts, it is hugely successful. Okay. It was founded by the gentleman George Weir, who's since deceased. We have a building named after him in regards to this permanent structure where they were operate out of. But he had multiple festivals, and he started with, I think his earliest one was the Newport Jazz Festival for those who are up in New England. He's got the Spoleto Italy Festival. He's got numerous festivals. Well, now his estate does because his wife is deceased as well. Anyway, so our New Orleans Jazz and Heritage, which has been a phenomenal success, not only for bringing celebrities here and bringing guests here, but giving opportunities to a lot of our, not only our local musicians, but also vendors, because most of these people out there all day long, they need drink and they need food. So they get a chance to sample all types of New Orleans food and beverage while they're there. So that's the other. You got music and food and beverage together in a concentrated event. So you know it's going to be popular, especially with New Orleans' reputation. So let's talk about the nitty gritty. Now, they're a little bit less than the World War II Museum at this point, but the gross revenue was $66 million. And the assets, $43 million, not thousands, millions. Okay. Now I'm not gonna read too many more, but I'm gonna show you the diversity. There's things like the Second Harvest New Orleans food, and also Acadiana Parish food pantry. I don't know. Everyone has, most states and cities have some type of food pantry where they feed every day people who don't have the wherewithal, whether they've lost their job, never had a job, homeless, and they can come and get a free meal or it's delivered. Well, of course, they've got to get donations of financial and also from vendors, farmers, etc. So they are doing right now I'll tell you how profitable, $119 million of gross revenue, and they have 91 million in assets. So again, but it's very important that we continue to feed. There's educational ones, school ones, Audubon Nature Institute. This is a huge conglomerate of complexes that provide wonderful entertainment for our citizens and visitors. One is our zoo, which is becoming an international zoo, modeled after the San Diego Zoo years ago. It's a beautiful thing. We also have an aquarium and an insectarium. I don't know how many insectariums they have, but I guess they do. Combined together in downtown New Orleans, where you can attend that and go and mix with the fishes and the sharks and see them in their environment, as well as the different insects. It's fascinating. And that has, I tell you how, that has 35 million in gross revenue and 16 million in assets for just those features, just zoos, aquarium, and insect watching. Okay, but anyway, there's the Lighthouse for the Blind, which I've had to use because of my limitations. And the Louisiana Bar Association, where our lawyers have an organization, of course, to keep them, maybe not keep them in line, but certainly keep them subscribing to themselves and proliferating. There's Easter sales, which is in the, but there's all kinds of things that are really just Project Lazarus, which is started off HIV patients, expanded beyond that. So all of these are ones that actually draw revenue over. Okay. Thank you. My producer told me what time it is. I know we do. So All of these are well established, and this is just a partial list, as I mentioned. Uh, I'm focusing on the next list, which we're going to start reading in a little bit, but I'm recording every one, in other words, because they're not in any order of alphabet or money. As I take one, I put it on different sides of the spreadsheet. The zero revenue assets versus the dollar revenue and assets. So they'll continue to build. And again, if I get help, I'm begging you, someone give us a call, give us a comment on the thing. I said Bob at our review, Craigslist.com. Somehow get in touch with us to help us out so we can expand this. And again, it's great for you all. Why is it great for you? It's great for us because this next list, we're again going to be contacting these folks to try and get them to coalesce. And even though sometimes they offer this, sometimes these things are very territorial. Like you'll see there might be multiple church groups from the same denomination, or there may be multiple services for the youth and the seniors. And they're so concerned, not only delivering those services, which is their primary mission, but sometimes they're so concerned because money is so scarce to getting donations that they're afraid to join up with someone of their like organization so that they would have to split the grants or not get a grant and the other one be awarded. We're trying to get over that territorialism and showing working together you can, first of all, do a lot better things. You can collaborate for events, for fundraising, for any kind of help. So that's what we're trying to generate that spirit. Now, let's go to the list, and we're going to read out some of these and show you. The very first one is called the New Orleans Ashbury UMC Church, a United Methodist Church. So that's one, and it shows the gross zero revenue and zero assets. Clay Center, New Orleans. I imagine that is probably someone teaching youth or adults how to do art with clay. And I'm checking. I don't have all. Now, again, if you go into the organization software that we talk about, guidestar.org, and you click on any of these, it will give you more details about what the organization is, when it was formed. We've encapsulated just to give you those three pieces of information with regard to the name, the revenue, and the assets. Okay. High voltage youth. Well, again, that's a slick name for something with youth mentoring or education or athletics. Crescent City Storage. Could it be just a storage place and be a nonprofit? I don't know. That's something I would have to certainly investigate. I'm going to skip that one. The GN Caring Collective. I don't know what GN stands for. But here's an interesting one. The Mystic Crew of Conus, C-O-N-U-S. And you'll see, as you know, Mardi Gras is basically, even though it's not unique to New Orleans, it's an established international knowledge that we have that festivity this year is going to be in February, okay, with giant parades and giveaways and stuff like that. Well, all of the individual people that are responsible for an organization of that nature, and also for maybe putting on a parade if they do, are called crews, like you have a crew to a ship, but usually spelled with a K. And the Mystic Crew of Conus, now they do not have a parade. And I don't know, Linda, is that actually a Mardi Gras parade? Do you know a Mardi Gras crew? Huh? Yes? Okay, well, they're saying that they don't have any revenue and they don't have any assets. But we want to show you there's several others. Another one, the New Neighbor Project. I know that's like years ago there was a thing called a welcome basket, or where that people would get together in the neighborhood when someone joined, a new person moved in. The ladies, and usually the housewives or whatever in those days before they all were busy working, would create a basket of goodies and coupons out there, bring it to introduce themselves to that neighbor and make them feel welcome in the community. Well, this is something like that. I don't know the details of it. Another one, St. Jude Animal Rescue. And everyone knows about St. Jude for children. We have a huge St. Jude Children's Hospital here. And of course, I know you're inundated with television commercials with Danny Thomas's daughter, who's the titular chairman of that, soliciting funds to help with the wonderful work they do with either terminally ill or children who just can't afford their families to get them the care they need. Well, this is one that I didn't know they have, so they obviously have a subset, even though it's independent, I'm sure, because the St. Jude one has huge monies probably in their headquarters. St. Jude Hospital, I always forget, Tennessee or whatever. But this is the St. Jude Animal Rescue. So this is unique to New Orleans, not necessarily to the nation. And these would obviously, just like the SPCA or any of these other private organizations that handle, store, and care for, and hopefully get adopted new homes, rescued animals. Now, again, they're showing zero, so they obviously need money. There's a National Men for Life. Yeah, that would be a group of men organization. There's the Bethlehem Lutheran Church, which is one of the Lutheran churches here in New Orleans. There's one called Glam U, and this is a kind of organization which is a cottage industry. Mardi Gras is so wonderful. It not only has the event where it has the parades and has these wonderful throws, they call them, junk, whatever you want to call it, giveaways, where the people who attend the parade in person can catch from any of the people on any float umpteen number of these things, all different, etc. So a lot of these things are now, instead of buying them from China, where a lot of the basic ones have been for years now, a lot of these individuals, especially whether it's a lady or a gentleman who wants to do a what they call a side hustle or just a craft hobby that for profit, they can create these things. And one of them is called Glam U, where they actually put glitter and crystals, all kinds of stuff on different elements that a rider can throw from his or her float or hand off to people who are watching that parade. So there's a cottage that grew up creating something, personalizing it under the instructions of the person who's paying for it, for them to give away at March. So you see there's numerous, one of these are just catering companies that have created just for that, to feed the riders or something, either before or after, or say bringing sandwich or finger type foods on the float. So they'll have some comestibles because they're there. Many of these parades wait 8-10 hours long from the beginning when they first get on to the time they finished. Let's see. There's Notre Dame Seminary, which is a little controversial. That's a Catholic organization for training priests and brothers, and it's a large, there's educational components, religious components, etc. And they actually have a nonprofit so people can give them money and take it off of their taxes, which is good about the 501c3, and use that to help with the instruction, etc., of future priests, brothers, as they go through their curriculum, educational-wise, as well as pastoral. Let's see. Like I said, I'm trying to do some. There's a Crusader Wrestling Club. Now, Crusaders is one of the nicknames of an athletic team by one of our Catholic boy-girl schools called De La Salle, I believe. I don't know if it's associated with that, but it's their wrestling club. A lot of them have sports. Besides the standard football, baseball, volleyball, gymnastics, they all have these subsets. Not all, but many will have subsets. So if this is that related to that particular school, it's their wrestling club, and they have a nonprofit, I guess, to help pay, not necessarily for their education, that's unfortunately their parents or their scholarship, but for them to maybe buy their uniforms or buy merchandise or go on trips, because obviously they will be challenging other schools, not just in New Orleans, but around maybe the nation. So, and again, just showing you the diversity. Another one, St. Andrew Episcopal Church, so it's not just Methodist. Algiers Methodist, Mount Zion, New Orleans Methodist. So these are all churches. Cabrini High School, I was just happened to be over there a couple of weeks ago, which is a girls, a female only, Catholic high school of education. Some, like I said, some of these that I don't have any, and you just from the name, there's another Mystic Crew of Apollo. That would be another Mardi Gras organization, and I don't believe do they have a parade, Lynn? No, they don't have a parade either, but they do allow you to make donations for them to thrive and carry on. Now, a lot of these organizations started without necessarily parades, and they would call them social and pleasure clubs, social aid and pleasure clubs, whereby they would not only get together for society, for collaboration, networking, just like we're trying to do among their members, but also to attend to their needs. Years ago, different organizations like even like Social Security has one where they give you a life benefit if you die. It's a couple $100. Those days, it was a benefit whereby you, whether you paid in or not, I believe, you don't have to pay in, and you would get a certain $100 or whatever for your funeral. Even though it would cover nothing today. Well, these things would help these social aid and pleasure clubs by having pleasurable events where they would charge to be a member of the organization. That would help fund situations like if one of their members had an accident or severe illness and they didn't have insurance. In the old days, insurance was a taboo. Very few people could afford it. And these organizations would step in and help out to the best of their abilities. So there's a lot of these that still are involved in different levels of social activities, and other than just getting together and having a good time. There's a Crescent City Chamber of Music, which is a beautiful organization. It promotes chamber music, which is one of my favorites. And in the old days, it was fairly common. Nowadays, it's old people's music, and so it doesn't happen all the time or have people who are well trained in that. There's one called the Grant Factory, and that's another private organization, just like we talked about the Greater New Orleans Foundation, whereby you join them, they will help you to create and apply for grants all around. I don't know, I'm sure they do international, but at least national and statewide as well as local to help further your organization. City Park Conservancy, that's to continue on one of our public parks and huge swaths of land with nature and different other things that obviously need to be funded. So what we're going to do here is probably stop on this. How are we doing with time, Lynn, on this? 5:43. Okay. We're going to do something out of the ordinary since we do still have a little time. That was really let's call it the official end of which normally we try and go for the whole hour, 58 minutes, etc. And so if you want to say bye-bye, join us in November, which will be, as I mentioned, our schedule has changed. We have one meeting in November 30th at Thursday at 5 o'clock, same time. And it'll be hybrid like this, one in person and also on the web. Okay? We went over all that, how to there's one in December, but I don't remember the date right now. So we'll keep you posted on that. If you join meetup.com, you'll get the notices. Each thing has to be planned, and you'll get that notice of when the event is, where it is held, at a location, the whole deal. That's what's good about that, is that we know who's joined and who will be contacted to make sure that they remember when the sessions are held or whatever the event, if we do events outside, that you can attend that. Okay, for those who are anywhere near New Orleans, I don't know if you're outside or not, you probably didn't pay attention to this, but all of us suffered the harangue of Mother Nature this year. I mean, all over the nation. I mean, all different crazy things, floods in California, snows, and a severe drought. And that, of course, we're not going to get political, whether that's attributed to climate change or not. I'll let you decide on that. But it really affected, our summers are very hot. That's one of our negatives in New Orleans. Not only do the temperatures go high, but the humidities follow, sometimes parallel. And if you have even in a middle to high 90-degree temperature and your humidity is like 70 or not even 70, like 80 and 90, close to the same amount, you can't breathe for long outside, no matter how good a physical health you are. Thank goodness New Orleans is conditioned to the heat, so every place is air conditioned. But it still completely limits you. You feel weak, fatigue, all kind of problems of, and not only do we have that during the summer, we usually have periodic, sometimes we'll have rain every day. Now, it might be just a mist in the afternoon, but it's something to cool it down a little bit to prevent it from getting and staying so hot, or at least 2 or 3 days, and then you're going to get a respectable rain. So it would drop the temperatures down in the 70s. It would let our gardens grow, give what about, why are you bringing this up about go? Well, so many things have suffered. You've seen, if you've followed the news on, you know that like some of the huge dams and reservoirs in California and the West have been drying and shrinking. So much so that they're seeing things that have been buried for years, towns and all kind of stuff that were inundated when they created man-made events for storage of water. Okay, Mother Nature's natural body of water that is so dependent on the middle of the nation is so dependent, including New Orleans, is called the Mississippi River, which is at some points is at least a mile wide down here, and I don't know how deep. I don't want to know how deep. So much so that ocean-going ships go on it. So like that ought to tell you enough that it's deep. And it's a main trade. In the old days, that was the only that and railroad was the only way to ship goods in and out of the United States from other countries as well as and we were a central hub. We still have a huge thriving port, not as much as in my heyday in the old days, but still very viable, bringing in a lot of money. Well, the Mississippi River is at such low levels. Can you believe that? Low, that it's been very dangerous. So much danger, and even though the north or the mid part of the Mississippi River, as it goes all the way up to Minnesota, I believe is where it starts, and there's a little trickle. But down here, our water, our potable water and cleaning and all, is all dependent on the Mississippi River. That water goes through our water filtration systems, comes to our residences, our businesses, for drinking if you want, if you don't use bottled water, which most people do, but for cleaning, for washing, dishwashing, washing your clothes, showering, cleaning, hygiene, etc. Well, because the river levels are going so low, the Mississippi River dumps or ends in the Gulf of Mexico, that huge body of water. Here's the dilemma. The Mississippi River, even though it doesn't look clean, you might say because it's so deep, is fresh water. The Gulf of Mexico is salty water. Well, so what, Bob? Never the twain shall meet. So much, except that's different now. Because the water level of Mississippi is dropping, let's say they're here like this most of the time, but now the Mississippi River level, let's use this one, is down here. So what's happening? From here to this other hand, if that's the government, it's traveling up to Mississippi, coming toward New Orleans. And what is it doing? Bringing all that salt. Well, anybody can. No, salt is not good for your drink. First of all, I'm sure it doesn't taste well in these kind of doses, but in certain levels, whatever that measurement is, 250 per 100 million, I don't know, I'm not a chemist, but they always put it out. When it's that adulterated with salt, one, it's almost impossible to drink because of the taste, but it also brings all kind of problems. The piping systems that bring it to your house and in your house get corroded if it lasts for a period of time. I don't know where that period is, but certainly, I'm not talking about years, it's months, and it could be months if this happens. Well, it has been approaching New Orleans at kind of a ferocious level until about a month ago. Now, all of our rivers, etc., are controlled by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, who build these walls or flood protection things to prevent waters, like in Katrina, from coming in and inundating our cities or our towns. Okay. So what they've done is they've taken that same concept of a man-made levee, not using concrete, but building levees under the water in the bottom of the Mississippi River. Now they had built one several years ago. However, because the water level is going so bad, different, that the salt water was flowing over that, getting closer and closer to New Orleans. So they went ahead and built it higher, another 25 feet higher. Now, not to the top of the Mississippi River, still, that's how deep it is, okay? But for the most part, it's slowed it down. And almost right now, we're saying, before they were giving us weekly alerts that we were coming out, that we were going to be affected, our water systems, by this salt water intrusion, as they called it, okay? So all of a sudden, what happens, myself included, people start a panic reaction because what are we going to do? What are we going to do about drinking? What are we going to do about cleaning ourselves or all the things we use water for? So right away, everyone said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do as a body, as a person, etc.? So the cities, the parishes have developed some ideas, and one was to take and create new pipelines going from their existing water treatment plants further upriver for getting the clean fresh water where the salt hopefully will not, because they have a pretty good feeling it's never going beyond a certain point yet. And it is beyond New Orleans into our adjacent parish. But there's a curve, there's something that happens in the topography of the river at this place that usually it never goes beyond that. And they're counting on that. So they were building, and today is the first day that one of those pipes are ready. They were testing it, I believe, today, which will bring water through that pipe to the water system so that if the salt had invaded that, penetrated that water plant, this would be diluted, or somehow they'd stop the other water from coming in. I don't know what the procedure is, but it would drop the high concentration level of salt to make it palatable for use. Okay. But because we were talking in those days, when it first started, they kept saying to me, in New Orleans, it was going to be here like in 3 weeks. I forget, it was originally like October something. And when they built this other thing, it started moving further. Now, we know it won't happen to December, if at all. Well, I couldn't rest easy with the idea that let's just hope, because New Orleans has its problems. Politics is one, and revenue is the other, to be able to do this project. Our neighboring parish is the one who did theirs, and hopefully it worked today. So they kind of solution. How are we doing for time? Oh, guess what, folks? Long-winded Bob is set the history for you, but not getting to the meat of the matter. I've been toying with, because I came up and telling you it's not my idea, so I don't think Bob's a genius. Pieces and parts of this through different conversations and reading stuff of what could I do as a person in my little stretch of the world, my residence, to allow me to continue drinking potable water and also bathing, at least cleaning, stuff like that. Now, you say right away, I'm giving it away, bottled water. That's right. The problem is, soon as this happened, if you buy bottled water at the stores, and we buy every week a pack of, I don't know how many of the small ones like this. It was just like during the pandemic with the toilet paper. Stores, Walmarts, all these stores being totally flooded with people, empty shelves everywhere. So that creates more of a panic when the media starts showing these things. So here's what's going to happen. So I've come up with these solutions. They're not worldwide, they're not ingenious, not unique to me, that may get me as an individual and you, if you care to replicate such situation. If you need to, all this might be a waste as far as you're concerned. Then I wanted to give these tips. So I prepared a little presentation with pictures of the situations, the tools that I've developed or purchased, not developed, to help solve or partially solve this problem. Now, like I say, at this point, it might be mute, and we're keeping our fingers there because we want to have normal life. So what happens is, I was going to, since I knew today we had back-to-back meetings last week, didn't have a lot to give you in presentation-wise that are really geared toward the nonprofit and the for-profit stuff. So I was going to inject a little 15-minute personal thing. Well, unfortunately, I've talked too much, so we haven't got to that part. So what we'll do is we'll either save it for another thing if it becomes imminent, or I'll create another show on my channels, not Resources Resolution, that will go into this. There'll be a live broadcast with the pictures and allow you to call in and change. So enough of that. All right, again, our next session, the ninth session, will be Thursday, November 30th. So you got a long hiatus, okay? 5 o'clock. And we hope you'll join us. In the interim, we hope you have a fabulous Halloween coming up. We had a wonderful Mardi Gras Halloween parade, which is every 10th year, last Saturday that our friends all participate and ride in. Absolutely tremendous. And also, we will be after Thanksgiving, so we want to wish you and yours a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hopefully you get together with family at restaurants like we do restaurants, but whatever's best for you, that's the best. So we wish you the best. Please contact us through any of the means we've told you. Facebook, email, Bob at revue.net, on any of the platforms about anything you want to know about this organization, how we can help you and how you can help us and any other information we've reported. So until November 30th, we're signing off. Bob Bockelman, thank you for attending. See you soon.